When I finished my playthrough of Sheepy, a short adventure, I was visibly shaking my head. Not in discontent, not in frustration, but actually in an amused disbelief. A disbelief that this small indie team who had never released a game before managed to piece together one of the most rock-solid, bite-sized gameplay and narrative experiences in recent memory. Sheepy's ratio of impressive moments to runtime is astounding, packing quality examples of smooth gameplay, immersive world-building, beautiful visuals, and perfectly complementary music into a succinct 60 to 80 minute experience. It's an easy recommend to anybody regardless of genre preferences because of how polished and digestible it is. And the most insane part about Sheepy, a short adventure, these absolute lunatics are giving it away for free. From the beginning moments of Sheepy, when the stroke of a piano gives life to your character and you animate them into motion with a pulsating button press, you can feel the sheer amount of polish that went into this game. The transition from, this is a neat little game that looks and feels good, to, this is an outstanding achievement in game design happens within minutes, as the number of components that Sheepy gets right continue to pile up over its short playtime. And that feeling of consistent wonder never wavers. In fact, it only builds even more. With each new moment, each original sequence, each change of pace scene, I continued to be more and more impressed with what Sheepy was putting together, resulting in the grinning, head-shaking reaction I had when its credits rolled. If it sounds like I'm exaggerating, let me back off for a second. Sheepy's accomplishment isn't that it outdoes other games in parallel genres like the awe-inspiring art direction in Grease or the flawlessly tight controls in Celeste. It's that its overall ambition is often higher than these games despite its scale being much smaller. It wants to accomplish a lot of things at once, it shoots for them all, and it produces highly competent results at every attempt. So let me just run through the list of things that Sheepy does well, and why the result is an experience more polished and fully realized than any one-hour game has any right being. Visually, Sheepy contains a stunning medley of attractive pixel art, expressive animations, and lighting and effects that complement them both. The environmental art does a phenomenal job of creating a world that continues to get more interesting the further the game progresses. Layers of background and foreground assets effectively blend together and, in combination with the cool, dark color palette, result in a visual style with a depth somewhere between Rain World and Ori and the Blind Forest. Despite your character being a rotund sheep that's more similar to a stuffed animal than a real creature, it somehow fits perfectly into this aesthetic, which helps to quell any questions as to why you're playing as a plushie despite the inhabitants of this world appearing to be human. Animations match the playfulness of the character's design, effortlessly showing Sheepy rolling into a ball during a double jump or squashing closer to the ground when ducking. My favorite was the expression of strain on Sheepy's face when they exert every bit of energy to pull one of the game's many levers. The visuals come to life even more through the game's liberal use of lighting effects, which almost always seem to push the boundaries just enough to create a sense of liveliness without being overly distracting. Sound and music also play an important role in Sheepy's experience, making a tremendous impact in the way it expertly matches the tone and intensity of the music to the scenes playing out on screen. Mellow, ambient tracks during periods of exploration flow uninterrupted into driving, dramatic beats during boss encounters and chase sequences. This emphasis on musical integration isn't a coincidence. One of the creators behind Sheepy is music curator Mr. Suicide Sheep, and includes involvement from collaborators of their record label, Seeking Blue. And after doing a quick dive into the many projects and creative efforts they're involved in, it's easy to see where the inventive brand of polish behind a short adventure stems from. Even this guy's merch site has a fucking vibe to it. Holding this all together, though, is a gameplay experience that features excellent controls and quick-hitting pacing through an absorbing world. Sheepy goes through an entire condensed version of a Metroidvania control scheme in a fraction of the time, starting you off with only the ability to jump before soon adding a double jump, a running dash, and more. It feels really good to move around in this game. It's clear there was a lot of time spent just fine-tuning the basics here. I love the dashing move in particular because it actually feels just enough out of control to make it spicy. In a genre that typically relies heavily on precise, reliable movement, Sheepy's rolling dash is fast and exciting, adding just a bit of unpredictability for a new player. The level design of Sheepy follows a largely linear path with a few offshoots containing secrets, but it feels remarkably calculated in serving the goal of keeping the game flowing with new mechanics and new moments. Every single segment serves a purpose, and because of the game's shorter runtime, this means that there's never a wasted minute and no single gameplay beat lingers for too long. New movement abilities are gathered and promptly used to advance your progress. Environmental obstacles are introduced and immediately expanded upon. A zone that's designed to be drastically more open and non-linear shows up at exactly the right time and then is abandoned to keep the story moving. And a fantastically coordinated running sequence sits among the best of its kind, along with memorable moments like the sandboarding stage in Journey, the underwater chase in Greece, and the Ginso tree escape sequence in Ori and the Blind Forest. It's a truly standout segment in a game full of memorable moments. And so many of these moments are so enjoyable that it's likely most players will finish Sheepy and be left wanting more. But it's because the game takes this one-and-done approach to its ideas that creates such a densely packed experience throughout its entire journey. Through all of this, what might be the most unexpected part of Sheepy is its remarkable ability to quickly build an immersive world with an engaging narrative. As you dive deeper and deeper into your short adventure, you'll uncover what's left of inhabitants that used to work at this facility. Much of their story is told through audio logs and notes they've left behind. Two storytelling methods that aren't exactly revolutionary, but they're well implemented here thanks to the quality writing and voice acting that effectively taps into the excitement of a group of people who've discovered something new, followed by the defeated realization that something has gone truly wrong.
Note to self, engine traps are not for me. Just as these guys.
Perhaps the best example of the game's gradual narrative, though, are the boss encounters, which provide a genuine beginning, middle, and end to their story, showing the designer's understanding of narrative building to be more realized than the vast majority of games developed by major studios. The fact that Sheepy is able to do this in just over 1 hour is proof that the video game equivalent of a short story isn't just possible, it has the potential to be incredibly compelling. We've seen other games of similar styles that are highly impressive in their ability to succeed at their core components. Sheepy isn't competing with the world design of Hollow Knight, or the platforming excellence of Celeste, or the environmental storytelling of Inside. But again, the greatness of this game isn't that it's top of the class in any one particular area. It's that the overall production value of each one of its components is so high and it's so well built, the end result is an incredibly satisfying, succinct gaming experience. And in some cases, like the world building and storytelling, the game's short length makes it even more impressive. In the end, Sheepy, a short adventure, is an exercise in scale versus scope. Most games of its size wouldn't attempt even half of what Sheepy does, or if they do, they wouldn't be able to pull them off nearly as well. There aren't many games as ambitious as Sheepy is relative to its size and context as a first-time release from an indie developer, but not once did it feel like its increased scope suffered due to its smaller scale. Sheepy, a short adventure, is a genuinely memorable experience that's not just good for a free game, it's simply a good game that happens to be free. I'll leave a link to both the game's Steam page as well as a page where you can support the developers directly, which I'd highly encourage you to do so that we can see more of what this team is capable of in the future. Thanks for watching.